Welcome everyone to Wikipedia Day New York City. Thank you Wikipedia editors and readers from around the tri-state area, members of Wikimedia New York City, people who just like interesting facts and believe in a common resource of information. Welcome to the Wikipedia Day celebration for Wikimedia New York. We're going to introduce some of our panelists who are going to join us, and then we're going to show a video sharing what 20 Wiki New Yorkers think of the 20th anniversary of Wikipedia. So I'm just going to invite some people in. Welcome.
Hi, welcome everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey everyone.
Hi. Feel free to comment in the live chat, whether it's YouTube or whatever else, and say where you're coming from. If you have any thoughts on what's going on, and if you have any questions later, we're gonna have a Q&A with people later when they participate.
Yeah.
Anybody want to share some special Wikipedia Day greetings? We have our we make a big deal out of Wikipedia Day in New York, so we usually have a conference where about 200 or 300 people come, and we share Wikipedia and the Wikimedia projects with people and cultural institutions and the communities across New York. And we do that pretty much every January, and we hope to do it again next year. But for this year, we're coming to you remotely. So maybe do we want to get the video ready?
Okay.
Okay, we're going to play the video in a moment, and yeah. Ryan, you got to turn on the sound.
Sorry. We need audio.
Yeah, okay.
One moment.
Thanks, everyone. Feel free to share where you're coming in from. You know, if you're coming from the New York area, if you're coming from New York City, if you're coming from upstate New York, from Connecticut, from New Jersey, we welcome you all.
Take two.
Take two.
I'm Richard Naipel, user Pharos on the Wikimedia projects, and we are coming to you from Delacorte Theater in Central Park in Manhattan, the site of the first Wikimedia New York City picnic in 2007. It's the place where our community sort of started. I started editing Wikipedia articles about New York topics. Was quite active in people, just general things in Brooklyn, where I'm from, other places around the city, and I ran into a lot of other editors editing New York topics. And I realized that they were probably lived near me, and they had a lot of the same interests in me, but we didn't have a way to come together. And the picnic was one of the ways to come together. And eventually, this sort of social movement congealed to become the Wikimedia New York City chapter. I was the founding president, but we've had other leadership since then, and we've been growing and developing with a lot more institutions over time, growing in connections with universities, with libraries, with museums. And often it's, things start in a small way and they grow over time. So for example, in 2009, we had our first outreach to museums with the Wikipedia Loves Art event at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which is right to the east, and also to the Brooklyn Museum, which was our principal partner there, and a number of other museums. And a few years later, I worked as Wikimedia resident at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and we were able to release a few 100,000 images of all of the artworks in their collection that are public domain. And we've been able to work with a lot of the institutions of New York, trying to make them more accessible, more open. I once saw a talk at a conference where people proposed maybe a dozen times when things like Wikipedia were proposed, but it didn't quite catch on until Wikipedia in 2001. And I think the September 11th attacks showed a need for the world to understand itself better, showed that history did not end in the 90s, showed that it was important to learn about cultures and countries and history in a way that could be collaborative and could represent all points of view fairly. And I think Wikipedia helped provide that.
In 2011, there was a study that showed that I believe 91% of editors are cis white men from the global north. And it was important to increase the representation of marginalized peoples so that all of our histories and our knowledge is shared. My name is Meg Watcha, and during the day, I am a librarian, and on my nights and weekends, I edit Wikipedia and serve as the president of Wikimedia New York City. I started editing because I wanted to teach others to do the same, to increase the representation of marginalized communities, both in the content and community of Wikipedia. And that was hugely aligned with Wikimedia New York City. I organized my first editathon, set the date, ordered the snacks, and then taught myself to edit Wikipedia so I could teach others to do the same. Just as with editing Wikipedia, contributing to Wikimedia New York City is an entirely volunteer operation. We partner with educators who are interested in bringing Wikipedia into the classroom. We partner with libraries, galleries, and museums to support them in making their collections publicly and freely available online. Most of the world's knowledge is hidden behind a paywall or closed doors of our physical libraries and archives. Wikipedia is the 5th largest website and the largest reference work on the internet. And when we make contributions to Wikipedia, we're making contributions to the world. And so through small edits, we make a big impact. And people really feel that when they come to an editathon. There's always that moment when people say, wait, I can edit Wikipedia? This is very much an international, multilingual project. And Wikimedia New York City is a local node within that global movement. I'm really happy to celebrate Wikipedia's birthday. Happy birthday, Wikipedia. Look forward to seeing where we go in another 10 and 20 years.
How do you do? My name is Lane Raspberry. I edit Wikipedia as Blue Raspberry. Happy birthday to Wikipedia. Wikipedia was founded January 15th in 2001. Here we are in 2021, Wikipedia's 20th birthday. Different people experience Wikipedia in different ways. The primary way in which I experience Wikipedia is with my own local wiki community, Wikimedia New York City. It happens that in different places in the world, if there's enough Wikipedians in a neighborhood, they get together, they start hosting meetups, they collaborate with each other, and perhaps they organize a local organization that supports that community. It's kind of a strange thing when Wikipedians meet up, because what everyone has in common is that they all love sharing information, they want it to be free and open, they share these ethics that everyone in the world should have access to the sum of all information. But the people who actually come together, they come from very different backgrounds. Any kind of wiki meetup is going to be very diverse. Personally, in Wikipedia, I share a lot of health information. I coordinate translation of health information in the wiki platform. And different cities have their own characteristics. In New York City, a characteristic that appeals to me a lot is how diverse and multilingual the city is. And at Wiki NYC meetings, there's always many languages spoken. If there's going to be any wiki editing, many languages get edited at New York City meetups. And so as I'm coordinating the translation of all these languages, I can meet other translators through this, my local wiki chapter, get their support and feedback for these kinds of things, ask them what kinds of challenges have you had in translating, compare their experiences to my own, and just get general advice. I could not possibly do this only at my university. I could not possibly just do this online. And I would recommend that any institution, whether it's a museum or a university, nonprofit organization, or any activist community, if you're doing any kind of research or major project in Wikipedia, reach out to your local wiki chapter, find one that works for you. Wiki NYC is very friendly. Tell them what you're doing. ask to be on the agenda of one of their meetings to present your project and get feedback from other people. If you do this, your research or your project is going to be on a better foundation. It's going to be more ethical and aligned with community values. You're going to get insights that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And also, the other Wikipedians who hear about your project, they're actually going to appreciate this, because anyone who actually participates in person or online or voice to voice, face to face, video to video, as the case may be, in a wiki community group, they care a lot about free and open information, and whatever information you have to contribute, they will appreciate it a lot.
My name is Kyle Luwu, and I'm the Programs and Communications Director at Kundiman, a national nonprofit dedicated to nurturing Asian American literature. We first teamed up with Wikimedia NYC in 2018 for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month to host a Wikipedia edit-a-thon for Asian American literature. As someone who had never edited Wikipedia before, I was very grateful to be paired up with everyone at Wikimedia NYC who showed up with such enthusiasm to host free trainings and help our group step by step in making edits. We continue to hold our edit-a-thons every year during Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, and we've now held 5 together. Being that Wikipedia is primarily edited by English-speaking white men, hosting these edit-a-thons was a tangible way for us to resist marginalization online by addressing these gaps and to bolster the visibility of our powerful community of Asian American writers. These writers are already here, but there were so many canonical, brilliant, and beloved Asian American writers who did not have a Wikipedia page. So from May 2018 to May 2020, Kundiman and Wikimedia NYC added over 88,000 words about Asian American writers to Wikipedia. We've edited 284 articles, created 67 new ones, and our articles have had almost 1.5 million views online. It's been so exciting to see our community come together to do this work, and we very literally could not do it without Wikimedia NYC, who made editing seem very easy for all of us. I look forward every year to continuing our work of amplifying the presence of Asian American writers online. And if you notice that your community is not represented in the way that you think it should be, Wikipedia is ours to edit. For their 20th birthday, make sure that it reflects the world you live in.
Information activism teaches people to think critically about the sources of their information, really by doing it themselves. Information is something we consume on the internet every day, but how do you think about it differently when you make it yourself? My name is Sarah Kluge. I work with the Art and Feminism campaign to improve coverage of gender in the arts on Wikipedia. Art and Feminism was founded in 2014 to start to address the gender gap on Wikipedia. In 2011, a survey found that 10% of Wikipedia editors identified as women. And since Art and Feminism started, that number has gone up to 16% worldwide and 23% in the United States. The gender gap on Wikipedia matters because it matters who's writing the information that we get. On English Wikipedia, something like 17% of biographies are about women, which is a substantial gap. And the gap is not just quantitative, it's also qualitative about the quality and length of those articles. By teaching people of different gender identities to edit Wikipedia, we can address that content gap. We are most interested, I think, in information activism with our participants at edit-a-thons. Every March, Art and Feminism has a month-long activism sprint. And one of those things takes place here at MoMA around the International Day of Women on March 3rd. MoMA has graciously provided a large amount of space and funding and staff support. I think that Wikipedia has come a long way in 20 years. I mean, maybe not the sum of all human knowledge, but getting closer all the time. I am encouraged by the progress we've made to close the gender gap in Wikipedia editors, and I think we've got a long way to go.
My name is Ryan Ng. I go by the username Epic Genius on Wikipedia. Basically, I edit mostly the English Wikipedia in regards to articles about New York City, mostly like architecture, transportation, other infrastructure, and geography articles. One of the featured articles I have created was about the construction of Rockefeller Center, which was a massive project in the 1930s through 1940s. It was now one of the biggest tourist attractions in New York City. Architecture and transportation are just my hobbies. I definitely believe that living in New York City has rubbed off on my interest because I walk by so many buildings and so many subway stations every day, and there's a lot of history in them, but I didn't really know about that history until I started editing the Wikipedia articles on these pages. In another 20 years, I think that Wikipedia has a lot of room to grow. Its value is immeasurable, even though everyone who edits Wikipedia is volunteer. It's added a lot of value to the world.
Well, you're at Atlantic Avenue and Pier 6. I've been exploring this place since the lockdown. This is where I've been throughout the whole lockdown because I usually go to Central Park, but now I've really got to know Brooklyn Bridge Park. The plants are native plants. You have the rocks. The little kids love walking on the rocks. My name is Fletcher. I've been a volunteer for 5 years now. So I got involved by going to an edit-thon. I like to do articles. The articles are pretty broad. Some of them are historic. Some of them are artists, photographers, musicians, historical events, towns that no longer exist, people who have done a lot of work. So I guess the best part about it is finding people who don't have an article, who should have an article, who have done a lot of work, and getting to learn who that person is. That's the best part about it. Giving people who don't have Wikipedia articles. You're learning about that person, you're studying that person, you're getting to know the person. It's not just New York. I've done articles on people in South Africa, Ghana, Belize. A lot of times when you do an article, someone will say, wow, I didn't know that person did all that. I did one on Claude Barnett, who started the Associated Negro Press in 1919. That one took a lot of time to do. It's through the edit-thons that you grow till you feel like you can work independently. So that's where you go to ask questions. It's Wiki Commons, it's Wiki Voyage. It's now they have Wiki ebooks that they didn't have before. There's so many ways that you can learn and you can expand other than just write articles. There's more to Wikipedia than just Wikipedia.
Hello, Wikipedia. Happy birthday. I'm user Will540art. I'm here in Bushwick, Brooklyn at Sure We Can, a recycling, redemption center, and environmentally justice-oriented nonprofit where I've been Wikipedian residents since April. We've done 4 edit-a-thons here, and we have a 5th one coming soon. In February 2019, I attended my first Wikipedia edit-a-thon hosted by the Black Lunch Table organization. This event, led by Heather Hart and hosted at the Bureau Manhattan Community College, changed my life. And I'm not being dramatic. Before I attended, I was trying to keep track of how many articles were in each category that I was following. And at this edit-a-thon, I met user Richard Nipel, user Pharos, and they showed me the Wikimedia Foundation analytics tools, specifically page views, mass views, user views, and it blew my mind. It changed my life. If you haven't used these analytics tools, I highly recommend them. pageviews.toolforce.org.
Hi, my name is Annemitsuchi, and I'm a librarian. I've been fortunate to get to work with so many Wikimedia New York City partner organizations over the years, since I started becoming involved with the Wikimedia New York City chapter back in 2009. I've gotten to work with wonderful groups such as AfroCrowd, Art and Feminism, Black Lunch Table, and what seems like almost every New York City metro area college library, museum, archives, and so many artist collective groups. We've been really innovative. You know, Editathon started here, and we've had this wonderful educational program. I think I've worked with so many different college classes over the years in different subject areas using Wikipedia in their classroom projects, either one time or semester long. There have been small seminar groups, there have been the one-time workshops, there have been ongoing classroom projects. Wikipedia has been a means of connecting so many people and places in its information sharing projects, both virtually, online, and in person. I really do hope that Wikipedia and Wikipedia related groups like our chapter continue to do this wonderful work and make sure that Wikipedia doesn't get too institutionalized and such so that we can still keep on taking risks to build something new, free, and open.
My name is Nora Almeida. I am a librarian, and I've done a lot of work organizing editathons at a bunch of different spaces, and I also use Wikipedia in my classes with students. An editathon is an event where a bunch of people get together. Usually there'll be like a theme or a specific topic, sometimes connected to the space or, you know, cultural heritage institution where we are, and ideally engaging with those collections in some way, and working to train new people to edit Wikipedia. And one of the roles I think that the editathons serve is to getting new editors on board. So people who wouldn't otherwise edit Wikipedia on their own. We've organized a lot of editathons at Interference Archive, a space in Brooklyn where I volunteer. And we're an archive of social movement ephemera. So a lot of times when we have an exhibit or a new collection or an idea for an event that might kind of coincide with people actually using our collection, that's one of our missions, is really to get people to use archival material. We've even gotten more people that might not attend initially like an editathon by having like a guest speaker talk briefly about some movement work that they've done. I mean, we've definitely had like pushback because when you're editing on social justice topics, we really talk about like fighting editing wars with citations and have like developed really good strategies around like training people to edit who are new editors in a way that their edits won't get reverted, and making sure that their edits stick. Wikimedia New York has been really great. I mean, I go to some of the meetings, and I've gone to like Wikipedia Day and stuff in the city. But Wikimedia, I'm not like a really super experienced editor, even though I've done a lot of these editathons. So Wikimedia like always shows up, right? They come and they bring people to help us create new accounts, to help support training. Like, you know, I kind of do my training, but the hands-on stuff is really important, having people helping new editors who have questions. Wikimedia New York has just really been super supportive. They've even come to campus where I work to help me with like facilitation when I'm doing workshops on campus or with a class.
My name is Bob. I'm user Coastboot on Wikipedia, and I've been editing Wikipedia for 14 years. Mostly I edit on articles dealing with music and the performing arts. I'm the one who started the article on Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts on Wikipedia. I have a particular love for the Metropolitan Opera, and I happen to work at the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts, where I've worked for over 30 years. I think Wikipedia reaching its 20th birthday is really an amazing thing. Wikipedia has influenced the world in general, not just by providing information, but because of Wikipedia's standards, that's also becoming a natural thing for people. Now people, when they read news stories, the first thing they ask is, where's your citation? I forgot how I first became involved with the New York chapter of Wikimedia, but I first attended what was then just a series of monthly luncheons at a restaurant. And gradually I got to know the people involved with the chapter, and I realized that they had the same goals as I did. I think everybody in the organization is passionate about how they feel about the good that Wikipedia is doing.
Some
Sometime after I moved to New York, I got involved with Wikimedia Commons taking pictures, and I quickly realized that I enjoyed taking pictures of local protests and realized there weren't a lot of people documenting them on Wikimedia Commons, while at the same time people were going to Wikipedia to learn about the protests, about these movements. So I started going out to these protests and taking pictures. This year in 2020, I didn't do a whole lot of Wikipedia editing apart from the article on the George Floyd protest in New York City, and went out to try to take some pictures for that article and for other related articles. And that took me to the Black Lives Matter Plaza in front of Trump Tower, to Columbus Circle, to Grand Army Plaza in Brooklyn. My name is Ryan McGrady. I edit Wikipedia as Rhododendrites, and I have been an editor on Wikipedia since about 2007, Wikipedia researcher, Wikipedia teacher. I was a master's student at Emerson College and took a course where the instructor had us edit Wikipedia. And up until then, I thought it was just some garbage website, and I got to experience changing something and wondered, why isn't this as terrible as it should be? So I started looking behind the scenes, and I got involved with Wikipedia first as a researcher. So this year in 2020, during the pandemic, I was taking pictures of lots of things, but largely protests and birds increasingly. So trying to get out here in Central Park, this is the Central Park Ramble, one of the places that I've spent a lot of time this year looking for birds. Wikipedia being 20, if you had asked me that 15 years ago, I probably wouldn't have bet on it much. Wikipedia has become just such an important resource in the information ecosystem of our world right now. All of the other platforms are relying on it. And so there's really a lot of urgency that we as in the community recognize that urgency for Wikipedia to be as strong as possible. So we're celebrating that, as well as taking into account all that we have to do.
My name is Xena, and I am user Dr. XGC on Wikipedia, and I am a teacher at LaGuardia Community College. And I have tons of projects with my students on Wikipedia. Very quickly, they become super interested in the kinds of research that they're doing and the things they're learning. And then they just kind of take off on their own. I had a student who volunteered. He wanted to come and take photographs of all of the houses of worship in Jackson Heights, because, you know, this neighborhood is very diverse. So it has Korean people, Spanish-speaking people, Thai people. And so he came and he took a whole gallery of pictures just on his own. About 2 years ago, Google featured Octavia Butler on their doodle page. You know, they have one every day. And what they do is that whenever they do that, they reference a Wikipedia article. And guess what? They were referencing the article that my students wrote. And then, of course, I emailed them and they were shocked because they never expected that they would be basically featured by Google, right? So I think that at the moment that they're doing the work, they like it. They're really enthusiastic. They understand that some people are going to be seeing things that they've created, but I don't think they understand quite the impact they have.
Hi, my name is Sherry Antoine, and I am the Executive Director of AfroCrowd, the Wikimedia initiative, which is focused on engaging people of African descent on Wikipedia and the Wiki community in both content and editorship. AfroCrowd began right here in New York City as a meetup led by AfroCrowd's founder, Alice Backer, a Wikipedian and member of Wikimedia New York City, and she's also a Haitian blogger and lawyer. During Black Wiki History Month, I joined her a few months later, and we have been growing from there from about June 2015 to now. When we started off as a meetup in the New York area, and then grew nationwide to have partners in different parts of the country, and to now where we have partners in different parts of the world and have held events in the continent of Africa, in the Caribbean, in Europe and elsewhere. We've presented at the United Nations and some amazing universities in the New York area and elsewhere, Columbia, MIT, CUNY schools. When we celebrate Wikipedia's 20th, what we're really also doing is we're celebrating the many faces who make Wikipedia the force of nature that it is and has become.
Well, my background is more in archives. So I started out with the Asian American Art Center, and that kind of launched me into these questions about how do we increase the impact of the work that we do through archives. So lesser known histories, underrepresented communities. I'm Rollery02, and I work with a group called Semantic Lab. They're located at Pratt Institute here in New York. And they used to be called Link Jazz. So I work a lot with Wikidata. Previously, I worked with DBpedia, which was the structured data form of Wikipedia's information. So Wikidata began as an endeavor to try to align across Wikipedias that were different languages, to align those records across the different languaged Wikipedias, a place where it would sort of manage the idea that this record on this site is talking about the same person as this person on this language site. One of the things about linked open data is that you do have to what's called reconcile. So basically align your data terms with things like Library of Congress, authority records, or with VIAF, or with something like Getty's vocabularies. And kind of a little bit newer on the scene of this movement was, or this practice was Wikidata. I don't think at the time people were really using that so much for creating something along the lines of authority records or controlled vocabularies. But I started reconciling a lot of these Asian American artists, and I realized that there was very little representation among the normal vocabularies, let's say like Library of Congress and the Getty vocabularies. So I started looking towards Wikidata, and even though Wikidata didn't necessarily have more of these artists in representation, the fact that it is an open platform meant that I would be able to add artists to that platform. There's a wealth of information that can be found on all these other platforms. So the idea that there's this management service that's happening where people are participating in adding their identifiers, this idea of linking between our project data and Wikidata, people might be able to like query something on Wikidata and then sort of merge that with data that's on our Wikibase would be amazing. Like, we're working towards that. The fact that Wikipedia is turning 20 makes me feel very old. It's just constantly evolving. I was about to say like that it's hanging in there, but it's not just hanging in there. It's like constantly evolving, and I think it's evolving in really good ways.
My username is I Love Pi Day, and I'm the founder and chair of Wikipedia for Educators at Fordham University. We're an open group of faculty, staff, students, and community members, and we support Wikipedia projects in the classroom, organize editathons on campus, and we also promote Wikipedia events in our community. I attended my first Wikipedia event in 2016. There weren't many faculty that attended, but there were 5 or 6 librarians that came. And that was a pretty big deal. Just like everywhere, libraries are understaffed, underfunded. So to have 5 or 6 of them show up to an event was a pretty big deal. It was a fantastic talk, and I knew I wanted to get involved. So I started attending monthly meetings, and I started talking to people on campus, and we got together to organize a group to start organizing our own editathons and helping to promote editathons in the community. The Wikipedia 20th anniversary is exciting because it's an incredible achievement and one of the best examples of the web of the power of collaboration.
I think it's fantastic that somebody could go to a collection like the New York Botanical Garden and grab a file folder about a scientist who hasn't really been profiled too heavily and write an article about that person on English Wikipedia. That's fantastic. My name is Esther Jackson, user emjackson42. I was the Wikimedian in residence at the New York Botanical Garden in the Bronx, where I was also a librarian for 5 years. And now I'm a librarian at Columbia University, and I contribute to projects related to Wikidata and particularly Wikibase as well. So I first became involved with Wikimedia NYC in 2016. That was when the first Wikipedia Editathon at the New York Botanical Garden was held, and I organized that. And I had never run an editathon before, so reached out to the chapter for help. A great contingent of the Wikimedia NYC folks showed up in the Bronx, which was great, and they helped new editors learn to edit and set up accounts, and they made lots of jokes about taxonomy, which was like well appreciated by the librarians and the and the scientists among us. I hope Wikipedia is around for another 20 years, for another 200 years.
When we started editathons, and for all practical purposes, New York started them in about 2007, 2008 is, and we were able to start them because the New York chapter had no formal organization whatsoever, and it had no money, and you needed nobody's approval to do anything. I'm David Goodman, user DGG, and I've been user DGG so long that I think that's my name. I got started when I retired from being a librarian. After working for many years in a formal setting, I was looking for a much less formal setting. And Wikipedia, especially around 2007, was a very informal setting. My original intention was to write articles to improve the quality of articles in the fields I knew about. But I found that most of the fields I knew about already had pretty good articles. And I also discovered I found it very enjoyable and satisfying to help people improve less good articles. So ever since then, I have really been primarily working on screening and improving new articles and helping new people. I would typically at an editathon go around and help individual people with individual problems, and especially try to tell them whether the articles they were planning to work on were going to have any decent chance of staying in, or whether they weren't. Because having screened all this, I more or less knew by experience what would. And this worked because New York City editathons have had an almost total acceptance rate of the articles that come out, because we basically don't let the others get written. We've gradually moved to a pattern of trying to do editathons with groups of people who are already interested in the topic and already know something about the topic, and ideally have some internet experience, and then we can guide them into the specifics of Wikipedia, and that works much better. The point of Wikipedia is not to do the social activism that's necessary in the world, but to provide the information that people can use who want to do social activism. We never thought, if you'll remember in the early days, that we were going to be the ultimate authority in the world for people looking for information. The idea is that we would be a rough and ready sort of place, and if we gave better information than, say, Google, we were doing okay. It takes what teachers and librarians also need to have, which is patience. Because we're talking about what's developed over a 20-year period, not what we can go in now and next month it'll be all solved. As it gets to the next generation, it's like the satisfaction of a parent with grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
One of the projects I worked a lot on in Wikimedia is with Wikimedia Commons. I've uploaded a few thousand photos, but of different professional photographs of food, mostly just as a hobby. My name is M on Wikipedia. It's M with a hook. And I do a few different things in Wikipedia, mostly writing articles and taking photos. I enjoy covering my hometown, Briarcliff, because it makes me feel closer to the community. I'm proud that Wikipedia has like endless room for, information about a topic. It's turning a milestone and becoming something that's not just a new internet project read occasionally, and something that's an actual excellent reference work.
Wikipedia is really amazing as a website compared to all the other most popular websites these days. The metaphor I thought of is all the other websites that are the most popular, Google, Facebook, Twitter, are like these modern architecture, glass and concrete skyscraper monstrosities. They're not very walkable in a pedestrian sense, but Wikipedia is like this brick building, old and assembled piece by piece by a very large group of people. And I think that the fact that Wikipedia stands right next to those buildings and is approximately as respectable and still provides a very useful service to just as many people is really wild. It's like our website as opposed to their website. I am enterprisey on Wikipedia. I work on technical things. Wikipedia is basically the only site I know of that lets people write JavaScript and other code and distribute it to other users in a sort of open source type of way. And I think that's a really invaluable place for people to learn about creating these scripts, because you can't exactly log into Facebook and switch all the interface elements around to match your preference. But on Wikipedia, that's what a lot of people do. And I think that's really cool for learning how to get into web development and all the other sorts of interface skills. I think Wikipedia turning 20 is absolutely wild. Wikipedia is one of those weird ideas from the internet from the 90s, and we're basically the only one that survived all this time, and I think it's because we've been so successful. I think the project is becoming mature, and one of the signs of maturity is we're realizing just how much work there is left to do. If we were 20 and we were thinking, oh, it's about done, wrap it up, then I think we would be in grave danger as a project. But I think we're realizing now how much work, how much expansion is left to do, how many topics are left uncovered, and I think it'll be very exciting to explore all those new frontiers.
Hi, everyone. We're coming back. Got to show all the credits, of course, because we have to attribute our copyright licenses. But I'll slowly add the people back. So yeah, and that. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to those who've experienced your first virtual Wikipedia day. Welcome to those who've experienced your other you've experienced Wikipedia day in person. You're coming now virtually. We'd like to maybe share it with our panel. If maybe people want to just say hi and introduce themselves and something they liked from the video, or some Wikipedia day wish they want to share. Perhaps we would start with our president, Megs.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan, user Megs. And I'm just so thrilled to see so many people here on our live stream and celebrating Wikipedia Day throughout the year. I feel very fortunate always to be a part of Wikipedia activities, both online and with Wikimedia New York City, our local chapter here in the New York tri-state area. And I can't wait until a time when we can all meet again in person. We're going to have to throw Wikipedia a real rager for its 21st birthday, and I look forward to that time.
Thanks. Dr. X, how's your birthday celebrations today?
So far, so good. Actually, I have a guest
that wanted to be here with us.
Oh.
This is Minx. And what she was talking to me earlier, and she said she wants to know, when are we eating the cookie?
Oh yeah. So if you want, you can have your cookie. So there are some cookies. So we gave everyone we had 20 Wiki-Yorkers who participated in the video. They all got a special Wikipedia cookie. You'll see it's nicely wrapped up here. If you want, we can eat them. We can eat them tonight. You can share them, or just show them off if you want. And we will have these are the Wiki cookies that I mentioned for the trivia. So we'll have trivia in a little bit, and then these will be the prizes. Oh, and Minx the sock puppet is enjoying the Wiki cookie.
Yeah, Minx is totally into the cookie. So, hello, my username is Dr. XGC. As you saw on the video, I teach with Wikipedia. I also, now I'm teaching with Wikibooks. Hopefully, before I retire, I will use Wikivoyage, all of them, And I can tell you that it's been an incredible change in my life, but also my students' lives to edit Wikipedia. I recommend it. I saw some comments on the video that some students were surprised that teachers are actually editing Wikipedia with their classes. There are many of us, and it's really, really fun and obviously very useful. And that's it.
Thanks.
More, but
Yeah, thanks. Ryan, how's your Wikipedia day? And thank you for all of your New York articles.
Thanks. My wiki days have been really good. I am Ryan Ng. I'm user Epic Genius on Wikipedia. I'm a student right now at Baruch College, but I edit a lot of New York City related articles, including those related to architecture, geography, and transportation. Right now, I'm actually a finance student, so I'm kind of editing out of my field of interest, or actually, no, that is my field of interest, but I'm editing it just as a hobby.
Thanks. Lane, how's your Wikipedia day?
My Wikipedia day has been fine anyway, but after watching that video and all those people showing why Wikipedia is important to them, it's so much better. Yep. I'm moved by the humility of all the contributors. And I was thinking, like Ryan, for you example, so New York City, 10 million or so people in the metropolitan area, so much history, but it's been captured and lost in copyrighted materials. And if it wasn't for people like you who is sharing this information, making it freely available through the internet, that's part Wikipedia. This is part our media and cultural environment that's being opened up. And of all the people that could be doing this, Ryan, you as a student, you've unlocked so much information. And if you hadn't done this, who would have done this? Perhaps nobody. I'm sure nobody. Nobody has stepped forward. Wiki New York City has been a beacon calling for everyone to share as much information as possible. And you're one of the rare photographers that stepped forward and made this information available. Other people in the video have different stories. These various nonprofit organizations, if they hadn't stepped forward to share whatever it is that they shared, there would not have been a replacement for this. And Wikipedia has been the vehicle by means of which people get this content out. It's very moving to me.
Thank you. Linda, how are you doing? How's your Wikipedia day?
It's fine. It's coming along. I've been busy all day doing different things. But due to the lockdown, I've started a meetup group of friends, and we meet every Wednesday. And it's been a lot of work for me because I have to keep them motivated on Wednesdays. And it's basically, I'm just demonstrating how to do things. We have conversations about things. I've even had them, we've even added content to COVID. We've added some information to that. We research, we Google, and we did create a Wikipedia article on a sacred shrine in Ghana that two of us visited in 2013. So we made an article about that, and we were able to upload some images. And one of the best things about it is that the family that I stayed with when I was in Ghana, Eric was 7 years old. He is now 17, and he is editing with us every
great.
Wednesday. And what's
Hey,
amazing is his father does the permaculture network in Ghana, sustainable agriculture. So, and I was there in 2008 and came back again in 2012. So it was great to be able to. I documented the founder of the Permaculture Institute. So it's great to be able to teach his son. He's learning a lot.
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks, it was like, you know, all these adults talking about this, talking about that. And one of the first, we did an article, and then the second project, I wanted them to see that there was more than just doing Wikipedia. We've done some wiki data. I've even showed them how to do a Wikipedia map. I mean, a Wikidata map when you get the longitude and the latitude. We've searched and we've explored how you add categories, how do you do book references, how do you do reference. We talk about topics. And one of the things we did was we used the Wikipedia book creator.
Thanks.
And we've done three.
Linda, if we could,
yeah, that's it. Okay.
Great, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I just want to get to everyone, and then we can get some questions. So, Will, if you want to, how's your Wikipedia day? If Will might have poor connection. If people have any questions for the panelists, please share them now, and we'll highlight the good ones and answer them, and then we'll go into Wiki trivia. If that's not much of that is going on. So I'll share. Go ahead.
If I may, I would like for everybody to know that thanks to my students, the Octavia Butler article now is fantastic. So I love Butler, and thanks to them, you know, we have all this information, because I know that lots of people out there love Octavia Butler. That article that you read about her biography on Wikipedia, it was my students, but it wasn't me, it was them. So just saying, a little bit of boasting is not a bad thing. But that's it.
Okay, thanks. So anyway, people, please put in your questions if you have any questions for the panelists. If anything that they talked about in the video that you want to share on. In the meantime, I'll just share the rules of Wiki Trivia, of Wiki New York Trivia. So the prize is a Wiki cookie sent to your home. Prizes are only valid for people who live in the tri-state area. And the first person to answer who is in the tri-state area will win the Wiki cookie. And we'll be asking, I think, 3 or 4 questions. So just keep that in mind. And let's see if we have some questions. How do I get a Wiki cookie? Okay, we've already addressed that question. That's very didn't tell it. If there are no active questions, we might just go to Wiki trivia. Anyway, so yeah, I'll go to Wiki trivia if there are no topics. Okay, we will start with question 1. Which New York City borough had a controversy? And people in the room, people on screen cannot answer this question. Which New York City borough had a controversy over what its article should be titled on Wikipedia? So the first person to answer this in the chat, who is in the tri-state area, wins a cookie. Which New York City borough? There are only 5 of them. See if you can get it.
Oh.
You cannot answer it, but yeah, let's see. No. Okay, so yeah, we do have a winner. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. So yeah, Scott is the. No, actually, wait, no. Peter Meyer is Peter Meyer. Oh, Peter Meyer is not the first one. So yeah, okay, wait. Actually, who's the Scott? I believe Scott is the first winner in the New York metro area. So I believe Scott gets a cookie. So yes. Congratulations. Let me just take that off. Anyway.
You should tell them, Richard, that the fight was whether it was Bronx.
Yes.
Or the Bronx.
Bronx or the Bronx. It was a huge fight on Wikipedia. I was firmly on the side of the Bronx. People in Europe or whatever did not understand the concept of the Bronx, even though they had The Hague right there. But yeah. So okay. So Scott gets one. Next, name. Okay, here's this one. Name the top neighborhood article in Manhattan. So this is over the last 5 years when we have data available. The top neighborhood article in Manhattan on English Wikipedia over the last 5 years when we have data available. So if you can name it, and you live in the New York area, then you get a cookie. And you only get one choice for each person. So see if you can get it.
Are you timing them?
No, I'm not timing them. But I mean, if it's a certain amount of time, no one gets it, then whatever, we'll move on, or we'll give it to someone who get close or something.
Rebecca, Greenwich.
Oh. So maybe I should give a clue. Okay, I'll give a clue. I will give a clue. I think one of the reasons that this neighborhood is so popular on Wikipedia is because it has a weird name that people are confused by. So if that's useful, you can try it. So a lot of attempts here, some good ones, but no one's gotten it yet, I believe.
Battery Park?
Nope. Okay, maybe I will give it to the person who, let's see, someone got it yet. No one got it. I mean, there are ways to look this up, by the way, if you cheat. But I can give it to the number 2 person. Should I give it to the number 2 neighborhood?
Or can you give us the answer first?
Yeah, I can just give you the answer. Yeah, the answer is Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, I think someone said it.
Oh, they did. Okay, good. Thank you. So please, find the person who said it, because I missed that.
Hell's Kitchen, but of course it's
Hell's Kitchen is number 1, Harlem is number 2, and Greenwich Village is number 3. In Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
So if we can find whoever said, please find that. Oh yeah, someone said Hell's Kitchen. Was that?
I think that was Michael.
Michael. Okay, so let's somebody write that down. Yeah. So okay. So Michael, you write a letter to email to Wikimedia NYC, and we'll send you a cookie, assuming you're in the reasonably distant area. Okay, let's try another one. Name the top New York City neighborhood outside of Manhattan. Again, the rule is only one choice. The prize is a cookie. Top New York City neighborhood outside of Manhattan.
Flatbush. I'll say Flatbush.
Nope. And I will also say that if we want people in the chat, if you can try it. If not, this one might be a little bit harder. I can give a clue if you want.
Yes.
But
Bed-Stuy.
Okay, so I'm saying people in the chat should guess, not people on the call. But
I'm sorry.
No one's guessed it yet, but it's a destination place.
Destination place.
Yeah. So I could give further clues, but I mean I don't want to overdo it.
Yes, probably.
Oh yeah. Okay. So it's Coney Island.
Yay!
Okay, that's what I said it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
said it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said it. You don't get a cookie because you already have a cookie. So who's the first person to say Coney Island?
I did.
Well,
it was me.
Okay.
But you said we could participate. I figured it was Coney Island.
Yeah, it is. It is Coney Island. So the first person who said Coney Island, if someone can figure that out, you will get it. The first person who is in the chat and who is in the New York area will get the Coney Island cookie. Okay. Okay, so so maybe we'll figure that out. Maybe Scott won it twice, but we'll figure it out. Okay, let's see. That's 3 cookies. Should we try for a 4th? I mean, we have 20 cookies. I think we can. I mean, it depends if we. I think let's try it. Okay, name the most recently promoted New York City featured article on English Wikipedia. I mean, this one maybe it's too hard. I think we probably running out of cookies anyway. But I will give it away. It is Ryan's article, the Riegelman Boardwalk, the Coney Island Boardwalk.
Cool.
Anyway, so those are. So that's your Wiki trivia. We're going to send out 3 cookies or so. Any questions from any people from the audience want to share anything? Or any further reflections from the panel we have here today? It's lovely to have you all at Wikipedia Day.
Somebody was asking me if that's a puppet. That is a puppet. Her name is Minx.
Yeah, it's a puppet named Minx, named after sock puppet. So we have sock puppets on Wikipedia, which is what we call accounts that are operated by one person operates more than one account. We call it a sock puppet.
Yes.
How can we get more involved in the Wikimedia community? Oh, that's a good question.
Nice.
One thing you can do, so if you're in New York, you can join our mailing list. You can look up the Wikimedia NYC mailing list, and you can come to our virtual events or in-person events when they happen again, probably the next year. So That's the thing.
They can learn how to host editathons. We just had a very successful one that was, started by someone who had never edited before. Maybe, so that's another way.
Are we all native New Yorkers? I don't think we're all native New Yorkers. I'm a native New Yorker.
No.
I might be one of only one or two. I don't know if anyone else wants to share their native New York status.
Somebody wants to know about spoken articles. I think you answered that question earlier, but maybe again?
Yeah, sure. So someone asked, I answered about spoken articles. So spoken articles are articles that are recorded. So you can read an article out loud. So let's say the article on Brooklyn, and you can read it out loud as an audio file, and you can share it to people who might find it more easier or to listen to it rather than to read it. And you can certainly do that. There's an article, there's a page on English Wikipedia that says how to record a spoken article. And you're very welcome to do that. Anyone can contribute a spoken article. Okay, happy Wikipedia Day, everyone. Feel free to get in touch, join our mailing list. What? Oh, yes, go to wikimedianyc.org and find our mailing list.
And I have put a link to that. I have put a link to everything in the chat, so you can find us there. So we will spare everyone a singing happy birthday. Really, thank you so much for joining us in celebration of 20 years of Wikipedia. And I think if all of the panelists just want to unmute, and we can all say Happy Wikipedia Day, and folks can go off to their next birthday celebration. Okay, so Happy Wikipedia Day.
Happy Wikipedia Day. Thanks everyone for joining.
Smells good.
Okay, let's sign off.
Next year, you can get a cake if you come in person. Thanks, everyone. Have an excellent Wikipedia Day.
Thank you for the cookie. Bye.
Thank you for sharing. Thanks for everyone joining the call. We might have some other live stuff in the future. Bye. Happy Wikipedia Day.